Hi, I'm Bob Brier, and I want to tell you a little bit about Egyptomania. Everybody's fascinated with Egypt. I mean, when little kids go to the museum, they want to see the mummies in the Egyptian collection. And we're all in love with the Egyptian art. And that's natural, I think, and it's fine. But some people aren't just interested, they're obsessed. And that's Egyptomania, when almost every aspect of your life is consumed with ancient Egypt. As you know, some people build their houses in the shapes of pyramids, other people just want to be reincarnated Egyptians, and that's examples of Egyptomania. But in my book, I talk about all the kinds of Egyptomania. For example, there are certain events that fan the flames of Egyptomania. Like when Napoleon went to Egypt and he came back with drawings by his artists of Egypt, and for the first time Europe saw what Egyptian temples really looked like, they went nuts. They started having bookcases in the shapes of Egyptian temples. In England, you had people creating tea services with little crocodile handles and hieroglyphs all over it. So Egyptomania really took off when Napoleon Bonaparte went to Egypt. But there are loads of other events that got things going. For example, England has an obelisk, and when that obelisk was brought over from Egypt in 1879, people went crazy. Ladies had little mechanical pencils that they wore around their neck that were shaped like obelisks, and you pulled a little tab on it, and a lead pencil came out. They were wearing jewelry with pharaohs' heads, and they started to have songs. You know, in the old days, you sort of counted on how successful a record was by how many sheets of music it sold, right? People had pianos in their houses then. So you started getting songs like Mummy Mine and Cleopatra's Needle Waltz and things like that. So that was another event. When you get obelisks coming to London and one came to New York, people started going crazy over Egyptian things. And then more recently, 1922, the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb, King Tut. This was something that was incredible. No one had ever found a pharaoh's tomb intact, full of all the treasures. So when Howard Carter started excavating and people started seeing the boy king's treasures, everybody was struck with Tutmania. And that's one of the things I talk about in my book, Egyptomania, about how Tutankhamun's discovery led to all kinds of things. For example, back to sheet music. There was a song called Old King Tut Was a Wise Old Nut. And it shows Tutankhamun as an old guy with a cigar, smoking a cigar, because they rushed it into print before they really got to Tutankhamun's burial chamber and discovered he was a boy king. He was a teenager. So they showed him as an old man. So the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb really set things going. But more recently, we have the exhibitions that have been traveling the world of Tutankhamun's treasures. And people for the first time get to see all the great treasures, and they don't have to go to Egypt. And in our time, in Saturday Night Live, we have a wonderful skit by Steve Martin. You know the one, Old King Tut, where he's singing about da 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 King Tut. Well, that's really about the exhibition. Right? There's a line in it where he talks about how, if I'd known, I'd built me a museum. Right? So it's really about the King Tut exhibition. So Egyptomania is with us today, and I think it's always going to be with us. And one of the things I wonder is exactly why is it that we're so fascinated with Egypt? And that's one of the things I talk about in the book. And I'll tell you one thing I think that Egypt has that nobody else does: mummies. It's the only time, for example, that kids get a chance to stare at somebody who's dead. And they sort of come in contact with death. And I think it's a chance for them to sort of come to grips with it. That's why little kids love mummies. They're scary, but they're not going to hurt them. And for adults, I think mummies have another aspect that I talk about in the book. I think we look at an ancient Egyptian, a mummy, somebody who was alive 3,000 years ago, and he still looks like a human being. If you had known him, you'd recognize him. And in a sense, he's cheated death. He's not just a pile of bones. He hasn't turned to dust. He's a recognizable human being. And I think there's a little bit of envy there. We'd all like to be eternal, just like the mummy. So these are some of the things that I talk about in the book Egyptomania, the events that fan the flames, why we're fascinated with it. And I think it's a pretty good read, and I think you might enjoy it.